Now, when kasama ako nitong mga kapatirang ito, nung pumutok yung Pinatubo, di ba? Dumaan kami sa Pampanga, sa isang maliit lang na statue ni Rizal. Habang naglalakad kami, sinatawagan pa kami, sinasabihan kami, hoy, galing kayo sa Pinatubo, ano? Lahat ba ng lahat ng aglahi, lahat ng ridicule. Gusto ko sumigaw, hoy, UP ako, hindi ako kasama nila, mga walang niya kayo, huwag niyo kami pagbubuhay na ganyan.
Pero doctorate, no?
Sorbonne! You have no right to subject me to this! Iba ako, ha? Iba ako.
The world has gone bonkers. We now live in George Orwell's 1984. War is peace, ignorance is strength, and crazy is normal. How do you stay sane? Dr. Connie Alaras is a professor at the Department of English and Comparative Literature at the University of the Philippines. She's a scholar of Philippine spiritual culture. Dr. Alaras, these days, the things on our mind are climate change, the current pandemic, threats of a renewed war in the Middle East, and then the rise of artificial intelligence, and then the rise of right-wing populist regimes all over the world, and at the same time, the decline of traditional institutions, which is why we all tend to be anxious because we feel like the world is coming to an end. Now, you're an expert on groups where the apocalypse is the center of their beliefs. So let's start by looking back to how you became interested in these millenarian groups. Groups that at the center of their beliefs is that the world is ending.
Yes. I was teacher at the Department of English, and one day there is a presentation in the faculty center. You know, the University of the Philippines faculty center that got burned.
That got burned. But it's rising again.
It's rising again, of
Yes.
course. Somehow, I was passing the corridor and I noticed that there is a discussion going on in the faculty center. So I went inside out of curiosity. And then I saw a professor there. I don't even know him. I didn't know him before. He was discussing about a spiritual group. But what stuck in my mind was this Rongot, Calamba, Laguna. And there is a group called Sagrada Familia. That was all. And then at least 1 or 2 weeks passed, and somehow there is a compelling need to see this Professor Prospero Cobar. His expertise is in watawat ng lahi in Calamba, Laguna.
These are spiritual communities.
Yes, also watawat ng lahi. So, I said, for whatever reason, there is a compelling force that makes me desire to go there.
See them, yes.
And to my surprise, he said, why not this coming weekend? I'm going there with a Japanese anthropologist, who's under my care. She's Terada and like that. And so, to make the story short, I found my way.
So this was your first contact with the millenarian group. They're from Calamba, Laguna, or are they Rizalistas?
Rizalistas,
Okay.
truly Rizalistas, yes. And it was, my God, we had to walk a long way. And you know, for whatever reason, the female leader, I mean, she's still alive, huh? We call her Nanay Gloria Bibat. For whatever reason, there was already a chemistry established. I had to borrow a copy of their prayer songs. And to Professor Prospero Cobar's surprise, I was given right away. I said, I just borrow this.
But she gave you the materials.
He told me, we have been coming here and somehow...
No one's offered us anything.
Yes, because, And that began the relationship. And on my own, I went back that following December. This Inang Gloria Bibat would fall into a trance, would become a Maria Makiling, or an Apo Ignacio Coronado, whom they consider another person of Jose Rizal.
Okay, before we move into the fascinating details of this. May I offer you something to drink?
Oh, I would love that. Sige, thank you.
What would you like?
Coffee.
Coffee, please. Here is our assistant Gamba with your coffee.
Wow, thank you. Wow. You are
I
like...
bet, do the Rizalistas look like that? Anyway, so, kasi when you say Rizalista, a lot of us, in the past, I was one of those people now. Oh my God, weirdos. They think Jose Rizal is coming back to save the planet. So, what exactly are these people? What do they believe?
They believe that he is the Filipino Christ. If every race has their own, every race has its own somehow, shall we say, a patriot.
So kind of the embodiment of
Yes,
the nation's spiritual
yes, aspirations.
life. Yes.
And he is the Filipino Redeemer to redeem the country. But anyway, let me tell you that even as I began to study them, not to mention anymore the science that made me change my topic from
Peasant novels.
peasant novels
Yes.
to this immersion.
Yeah, that will go
Yes.
into the TV series about your life, which
you know,
which should last
I
many
must
seasons.
admit that at the beginning, whenever they ask me, Connie, what do you think will bring the fulfillment in our country, in our race? Somehow I anticipated what they want to hear from me. So I would start saying this. Oh, don't tell me to worship Rizal. I said, being a former Carmelite nun, I can only believe, yes, that he was sent by God to be the embodiment of our aspirations as a people.
Yeah, so in your book, Pamathalaan, you talk about all these millenarian groups
Oh, pala, sorry.
that you have that you have studied. So these include Rizalistas,
Yes.
the groups in Banahaw,
Yes.
groups in Laguna, and so on. So how were these groups formed? How did they form their belief systems? Why do they think the world is coming to an end?
It is in their prophecies too that the time will come when really all these calamities will emerge. As a matter of fact, they will say, there will be sicknesses and diseases
Check.
that will remain to be incurable.
Yes, check.
Somehow, this can only be understood in this way. These groups that I studied have been waiting for the leader who will guide them in their spiritual government. The people I studied, the ancestral spiritual groups in the Philippines, somehow I believe that this is an instrument to captivate the imagination of our Filipino leaders, citizens, and communities. The Pamathalaan, when I discovered somehow, after the publication of my book, I discovered that mathalin Pamathalaan, that makes the distinction between Pamahalaan and Pamathalaan. The mathal in the middle term, I discovered this in Mindanao, that mathal means exemplary or model.
Okay.
So I concluded that if you have a Pamathalaan and not a mere Pamahalaan, you have a model government when that government allows itself to be guided by the divine will.
Kumbaga, walang separation of church
Yes,
and state.
because the history too of our civilization, as Rizal espouses, the foundation of our governance is theocratic.
That the Philippines is a naturally
Triumvirate,
theocratic
the
society.
triumvirate.
Yeah.
You have a Datu, you have a Panday, and you have a Babaylan.
Okay.
And before, in our governance, the Datu can also be the spiritual leader and the healer. Before, our form of government can be so-called unitary, kaya nga theocratic. Kasi the Datu must be seen to be exhibiting model qualities like the ability to govern based on following the will. Di ba Baylan, of course, is the one intervening to and saying what
Ang medium, yes.
from above.
Yes.
Because, among our ancestors, heaven and earth, this is also heaven, So, the Panday is the one that, the artist, is also the one that, creates the arrow at mga lahat ng
Yeah, the
ganyan
weapons,
na
yes.
ginagamit sa warfare, di ba?
Yes.
So, when I start talking to them about this, the idea of spiritual government, even with the choice of a leader, they know when the leader is wise and still anointed by God, patala, if there are no calamities, the society is in order.
Okay, so my problem with the idea of a spiritual leader becoming the head of a country is, won't we all be waiting for some kind of savior, redeemer to lead us out of all our problems and solve them? And doesn't this give rise to autocrats and demagogues who take advantage of the fact that the people are waiting for somebody to solve everything? So here I am, I will save you all, but when I say jump, you jump.
It depends upon the constituents now. When we offer and pray and when we ourselves also will be virtuous, according to Rizal also, in his call for a moral redemption of the Filipino race, when every citizen is virtuous, and we all pray to give birth to good leaders.
So it's not just now. We're looking. First, we have to start with ourselves, and then we can start looking for a leader, the leader that we need. Yes, kasi ang nangyayari ngayon, yung parang everybody wants a shortcut. Now we just want some big father or mother figure na to tell us
and then
what
everybody
to do.
Follows.
Yes.
Pagka every one of us is doing and following results, prophecies, results, admonitions, and everything, that everyone must be virtuous, then we will be worthy of a good leader. We will be worthy of another virtuous leader.
So one way to explain Philippine politics is we have gotten the leaders we deserve because we're not worthy.
We're not worthy. You said it.
Okay.
So, until and when? And then we just keep asking, waiting, give us that leader? No, you give birth to it.
Okay, so it's really up to us.
Well, that's my own conclusion in my research. That's the one is my advocacy now.
So, do you personally believe that the apocalypse is coming? That, all the things described in Revelations will come to pass?
Well, of course, nobody knows when is the end of the time. But the signs are this. From the scripture, it is said really that when a certain time will come and the chains of hell will be loosened, there will follow millennium or peace. So the end of the world is coming. All of this that we are experiencing, all of these are but signs. Parang hell is in the loose na, di ba? It's in the Bible even, it said, if only a few can. Yung bang aakuin. Pag inako mo ang isang bagay, you will continue to offer sacrifices, prayers, to be able to sustain the vision, to give birth. If collectively we can do that, these leaders will just follow us. That's my point.
So the leaders should be parang our avatar that
You
who
said
acts as
exactly.
our collective will.
Yes. We have to reverse the process It's always, first you have a good leader nga. And then everybody follows. Hindi nga ganun
It always has to come from us. Otherwise, megalomania kang mangyayari.
So what happens, di ba sinasabi ng mga leader natin, kaya sila hindi effective is because we are only symptomatic of our society.
That is
because this is our Philippine society. So you cannot blame them. And di ba lagi sinasabi pa ng iba, can you expect an honest Filipino politician?
Yeah, and that's why the answer always is, ba't nyo binoto?
Exactly. Tayo nga rin, from below. Tayo yung masa. Kaya nga ako minsan, nagre-reklamo ako sa media also. But anyway, I know that the time will come. Minsan ang nireklamo ko noon, sabi ko lagi ganito sa NCCA. Well, anyway, I can be open about this in the National Commission for Culture and the Arts. When I say that we in the media, we don't do what is supposed to be done. Lagi niyong sinasabi, wala tayong magagawa, Connie Yung mga mainstream, sila yung hinahag ng masa, yun ang gusto ng masa. I refuse to accept that, I said. We'll accept this. Yun lang binibigay natin, kumbaga sa pagkain. Kung yun lang ang binibigay, and I'm grateful to you, Jessica, Leo, Abaya, for believing in a show like this.
I think media, for the most part, has not been doing its duty of shaping people's minds and helping them to think. Because if you only give them what you think they want,
You condemn
nothing will
your-
happen. I would just be happy if lots of people watch it. But
We
anyway,
will see.
so you don't believe in a literal ending of the world, yung parang everything
No.
goes up in flames. No.
I'm sorry, deep within me, because, especially nga, I said, the Philippines' destiny to take care of the world will still be experienced because there will be millennium of peace. It was also in the scripture before, I think. Yeah. So to say, the golden age, we can recover the moral sacred foundation of nationhood, of civilizations. Especially Rizal has prophesied. You know, there are only 2 prophecies ni Rizal na hindi pa napupulfill.
Which are?
Federalism and to recover the Filipino civilization. We must return to the golden qualities. When we begin to discover and rediscover our golden qualities as a people, then we will begin to enter into the wide road of progress.
So, all these millenarian groups that are present in Southern Tagalog, Visayas, Mindanao, are they related to the colorum of the Hispanic period? The colorum being
Yes.
there was a time when Filipinos were not allowed to say mass, di ba? And so they formed their own groups
Yung mga
where they
bahol na
can
kampana,
practice
mga
what
sinasabi.
what
Kasi
they
nga,
can.
hindi ba sa history, okay naman tayo eh. Okay yung governance. Then, yun na nga, dumating ang mga Spanish colonizers. I've said this openly in my lectures sa mga priests, nuns, and whatever. You keep saying about split Christianity. To be honest, there is no split. You introduce the split. But because of the colonizers, syempre, ang sama naman ng kanilang mga abuses. Di ba yun naman ang inano rin ni Rizal? Ang hindi na nalalaman, even yung mga naging Christian they were only following Christians sometimes in terms of mga ano nila. Ang tawag dito yung external. But deep within, they were still ancestral, mga ninuno pa rin. Parang something like this. That was what I discovered when I immersed myself in this spiritual brotherhood.
So,
sisterhood.
ang mga paniniwala nila remain the same. Yung veneer lang ang Christianity.
Yes. And that's why I was trying to tell, this is what I tell the church. Until and when. Kaya gusto ko nito si Pope Francis, medyo may yan pinapasukan niya ngayon. Of course, it was started by Saint Pope John Paul II.
Yes.
And somehow by Pope Benedict, but it's more now of this Pope Benedict, about Pope
Francis.
Francis. Ang problema, I've always said this, Christianity was only accepted without you knowing it, according to the terms of our ancestors. And when you fully understand this true reality, Christianity will not be accepted in its fullest terms. Why do they say na may Filipino church nga? Ba't nga naman Roman Catholic Church, nasa Pilipinas naman tayo. Di ba? Okay din naman yun. Oh. But ang sinasabi ko lang, instead of marginalizing them right away and saying they were a cult of the devil and of like this and like that, yung mga stigma, kawawa sila eh. Marginalized, disempowered.
Although it's still going on kasi if in the past they were called satanic, they were marginalized. Now they're marginalized by calling them uneducated,
Yes.
folk religion.
What I remember right now that I should introduce, during the centennial ng Philippine Revolution, di may topic kay Rizal. Siyempre, may mga Rizalista in the morning. Ang topic ano ba yung mga kulto nga daw na ito na sumasamba kay Rizal?
Even the word kulto is so heavily charged, di ba? Kasi kung
sabi ko
sinabi
nga,
mong kulto, mga siraulo yan.
in the interview, lagi ko sinasabi, they are not kulto, kultura yan. Alam mo ba naman, sabi nila, may nagtatanong daw, ano ba itong mga kultong ito? Sabi daw nung moderator, hintayin niyo si Professor Alaras siya mag-explain.
Okay.
So when my turn came, eto na. O ako, yung mga sinasabi niyong kulto, yung mga of the devil na yan, kung ano niya, na sumasambak sa mga ganyan-ganyan kay Rizal. O anong gusto niyo? Pagpapatayin na natin yan, pagtatanggalan natin ng mga ulo. Dahil hindi kayo sinusunod, ako niyo, simbahan, ng estado. Alam mo, sabi ko, sa totoo, dito ako nakakita ng liwanag Liwanag according to governance, education, even sa diplomacy, lahat na yan ang forms ng society natin. To the point na yung libro ko, if you take note at the ending, maganda yun. Yung si Pepe, yung Herrera. Pag sinasabi niya lagi sa wherever he went sasabihin niya, ako si ganyan. Siyempre, tingin talaga sa kanya, baliw siya. Pero ako, diniconstruct ko na siya yung every Filipino that is calling for the true and coming to terms with our sacred legacy ng mga banal nating ninuno at bayani. Kaya sa kanya ako nag-ending.
So in the different millenarian groups po that you have studied, they have things in common na is unusual. Why would they all have this in common? Like, meron palaging isang medium na sinasapian ng Santo Niño, ng Mahal na Birhen, etc. Paano nangyari yon na lahat sila ay nininiwala ng gano'n? Nagkopyahan ba sila o ano?
Based on my research, even pala in some Asian countries, I think in particular like Vietnam too, during the time of colonization, they would have this medium. And normally, the spirit of their patriots, their heroes, are the ones communicating with them. So whether it is real or not, it's another matter. And that was used also to motivate the call for their patriotism. But anyway.
Sa bagay, di ba the oracle at Delphi of the Greeks?
Di ba?
Ikaw, Oedipus.
Yes, di ba?
Okay.
Actually, in my research, I said this that the belief system of this kapatiran, this spiritual brotherhood, sisterhood, or I would rather call ancestral spiritual groups.
Rather than
I told you that
cults,
rather
even
than
in my
folk
UP
religions,
Office
UP Office of Research Coordination, that was one thing I first clarified. That let us not use any more folk, spiritual groups, or cults.
Yes.
Because by the name you shall be defined, and you be understood, maybe just call them ancestral spiritual groups.
Okay.
Because for all intended purposes, they're really ancestral, mga
they've been around longer than we.
Di ba? Bago pa tayo lahat dito, nandiyan na sila. So anyway, kaya nga nandiyan sila sa mga banahaw, mga bundok, at ang characteristics nitong mga ancestral spiritual groups, ito nga, yan, believe in the Sapi, believe in the reincarnation. Isa pa nga, meron pa sila yung Gadimother meron silang Gadimother ha.
Oh, wow. And I'm sure you've seen many instances of yung possession where the medium starts speaking in the voice of a spirit.
Diyos ko, may napanood pa ako. Naku, kung ako may sakit sa puso, siguro natake ako. May tinatawag pa silang combate spiritual na naglalaban yung, Diyos ko po, yung mga
tapos
bago ko
nag-aaway sila?
Nagugulantang ako. Kaya nga yung sinasabi ko, it will be unfair. I tell the other scholars, local, national, abroad, foreign, please, do not judge the spiritual groups based on your 1, 2, or 3.
Yeah, you have to immerse yourself.
Ang hinihingi ko lang is openness. Do not judge right away.
Right.
Kasi nga, sabi ko, ako nung una, kasi nga ako nung pagkalabas ko sa kumbento, sa kanto namin may isang healer. Hindi ako tumitingin sa takot ko dahil based on my orientation sa Carmel, sabi siya, nothing of those sorts, mga trances, mga voices, mga dreams, lahat yung mga ganyan. So pag ako naglalakad talaga, at nakikita ko na yung bahay nila sa kanto, Diyos ko, nakatingin ako doon. Hindi ako tumitingin. Imagine. Kaya ako siguro nakarma ako. Eto, na-immerse naman ako. Sa UP noon, sa college, pinakitaan nila ako nung may sinasapian, ganyan-ganyan. So the basic question is, bakit may sapi?
Bakit? First, how do you know that it's real and not acting? Second, how do you know if it is real, if it's not a mental illness? Schizophrenia.
Oo nga. Ito na. Sabi ko, based on my research ko yan, sabi ko, nag-aral ako sa tambak ng mga sinasapian yan. To the point na pina-experience nga din sa akin. Mga sasabihin nila is hindi lang sila makakommunicate dahil kapag normal lang, wala silang power.
Pwede ring
mass hysteria. Power kasi, o mass hysteria, o kaya, parang kailangan, panipaliwalaan ka, magkaroon ka nga ng, ginagamit ka na ng santo, santa, Mama Mary, o bayani, sila Rizal, mga bayani, ginagamit sila. Totoo naman, meron, ganun, saping ganun. By the results, you will assess whether it's somehow authentic or not. Not even in the realms of human values will be contrary, di ba? Talagang malabo yan. But, if the message will make you believe more in a divine force that will instill in you something good and make you productive, di ba? And an action na talagang alam mo is only from a revelation na from sa taas lang, Kaya in my dissertation, in chapter 4 ko, yung mga hakbangin, I also experienced these manifestations. It all started yung mga prophetic dreams ko nung na-immerse ako sa kanila eh. Oo. Nag-start ako mag-dreams na totoo, nagkakatotoo. Even among them, ha? Tapos, and then na-experience ko din yung trance. Oo.
Ano pong nangyayari sa isang trance?
Ganito kasi yun. May nag-trance doon sa Pila Laguna. Yung may isang grupo doon, ang pangalan eh, Brotherhood of Mother's Kids. Nag-plus lang naman sa mind ko. Ba't in-effect? Siguro ba, in-entertain ko. Diyos ko, suddenly, to my amazement, Diyos ko, nanginginig itong mga ganito ko. Ito, ganyan, hindi ko mapigilan. Sa akin, hindi yun yung trance, hindi ako nagsalita, pero may manifestations, no? Diyos ko, hey God, up to the point na humihingi na ako ng tulong sa kanila, help me, how can I stop this? Kasi noon, may pinaniniwalaan nga silang yung Ignacio Coronado, yung naging ano yun naging...
Sino si Ignacio Coronado?
Si Ignacio Coronado, pinapaniwalaan nila na another phase of Rizal nga. Basta isang leader talaga na may reincarnation ni Rizal.
Okay.
Yung naging cripple. At ang sabi, pag siya naging cripple, yan ang pagsisimula naman ng mga misyon. Kasi nga hindi ako naniniwala. Sabi ko, ano ba yan? Parang nagpa-plus sa akin, pag hindi ako sumurrender at hindi ako maniwala, ako makikripple din.
Okay.
Siyempre ko naman matatakot. Naku, naniniwala na po ako. Parang awa nila po.
Parang yung demonstration, diba?
Alam mo, bakit naman ito pala lang ganyan talaga. Do you know what? After that, talaga naging speechless ako. Dal ko. Diyos ko talaga, I'm trying to fathom. I was trying to fathom. Ano ba nangyari sa experiencing? What was it all? Pinadama sa akin. At ito pa maganda, nung sumasama ako sa paglalakad nitong, ito kasing yung sa La Union na accept ng pamatalaan at saka ritual center na sila, lumala, yung mga yan naglalakad kasi. Lakad lang. Mula sa San Fernando City, La Union. Hindi, sa Rosario, La Union, yung nga sinundan ni Karen Davilan sa kanyang show. Patong Lawag, sinundan ko yan. At certain spaces. Tapos, chair ako yung department. Tapos, pupunta sila sa Manila. Pupunta, kung saan sila tawagin. Punta sa Malacanang ata, ganun. But anyway, I must first tell you what I experienced was, inekapatiran, ganyan, nandun yung mga members. Nakaupo ako dito. Tapos may leader sila. Pinaluhod ako. Diyos ko, sa matutulis na mga bato-bato. Dod! Ako, Diyos ko, dilumuhod naman ako.
Kung ako yung nandun, ayoko nga.
Hindi, ito nga masarap mo. Hindi, ito ginagamit ko to, sinasabi ko to eh. Luhod ako. Minura ako mula ulo hanggang paa. All the inconceivable mura. Tapos nabilingon ako sa kanila, sa mga members. Gusto ko umiiyak. Diyos ko, ano ba? Tulungan niyo ako. Ano ba to? Am I being subjected to this?
Ba't naman kayo?
Akala ko ba love ito? Sabi ko.
Ba't naman kayo minura-mura?
Sabi ko, this is too much. Sabi ko, tatayo na ako. Walk out ako. But you know what? Suddenly, I felt such a magnificent sweetness and delight enveloped me. To the point na, wow! Sabi ko, ang sarap naman. Nakalimutan ko na lahat. Basta ako, yun lang ang aking nirelease. Minulat ko na yung mata ko after this sweetness and delight of whatever na embrace sa akin. Nagulat ako. Yung leader nag-change. Naku, nagpugay naman sa akin to the highest heavens. Hindi ko na malaman. Diyos ko talagang sinabi, ayan. Hindi ko pa rin naintindihan yung experience niya. Nobody explained it to me. Sa akin, mas mahalaga yung experience ko. Now, when kasama ako nitong mga kapatirang ito, nung pumutok yung Pinatubo, di ba? Tapos nandun kami parang mag-December 30. Dumaan kami sa Pampanga, sa isang maliit lang na statue ni Rizal. Habang naglalakad kami, sinatawagan pa kami, sinasabihan kami, hoy, galing kayo sa Pinatubo, ano? Lahat ba ng lahat ng aglahi, lahat ng ridicule. Gusto ko sumigaw, hoy, UP ako, hindi ako kasama nila, mga walang niya kayo, huwag nyo kami pagbuburay na ganyan.
Meron doctorate, no?
Sorbonne. You have no right to subject me to this. Iba ako, ha? Iba ako. Hindi, sabi ko, kaisa ako eh. You know, with that experience, suddenly, the epiphany, the enlightenment about that, whatever happened in that, binagmumura ko. Nag-plus sa akin. Now you understand what they're undergoing? all the stigma, all the
It's like
ridicule,
a trial.
all the condemnation. Now you are experiencing it. If you have to be one with them, you must experience it to the utmost. God, ang ganda ng tao. Pero bakit ngayon lang? Kaya every time na sumasama na ako sa kanila, isa matutulog lang kami sa kung saan-saan ng lugar, no? Tapos nagsasalita sila sa mga market. Pag pinasasalita nila ako doon sa mga lugar kung saan-saan sulok-sulok yan. Alam mo ang sinabi ko? Alam niyo po ako naiimbitahan sa iba't ibang bansa. Hindi ko naman pinagyabang lang. Ako naiimbitahan, pero sa akin po, mas makabuluhan itong aking karanasan dito. Hindi ko ito ipagpapalit.
It calls to mind the experience of all the major religions and how they began,
Precisely.
where the head and his followers go
Yes.
around, meet unbelievers, are subjected to
Yes,
abuse. Yeah.
Kasi natatandaan ko noon, di ba, tuwing mag-i-interview ako sa kanila, dahil kako, may dala-dala akong, ano tawag doon, tape recorder. Eh, syempre, yung panahon na yun, wala pa naman yung mga tape recorder.
Ngayon, telepono na lang.
Oo, ngayon, mga cellphone. Meron akong tape recorder, meron akong notebook, meron akong sabi ko sa kanila, Kuya, tatay, o ate, nanay, pwede po ba kasi sa universidad kailangan daw po ito may take kayong interview. Tatanungin ko naman kayo, kasi hindi tayo paniniwalaan. Ano mo sinabi sa akin? Kasi anak, pinag-aaralan mo kami. Alam mo, ikaw may sarili kang kaloob. Binigyan ka ng handog ng Diyos. Pag nagdasal ka, mauunawaan mo kami. At ikaw rin ang magbibigay ng patotoo sa amin. Kaya bakit kailangan yung mga tape recorder? At saka yung mga susulatin mong di wala na. Oo nga naman, sabi ko talaga, di ba? So, ang ibig para sabihin, very liberating and empowering. Trust my own kaloob. When you are sincere in asking for the light and discernment, it will be given to a heart that is open and offering himself or herself. Hindi ba, my God? Kaya nga nung sinabi nila sa akin, ba? Hindi sila basta magsasabi sa iyo. Ito pa maganda sa kanila. They have a common, mga ganyan, mga mediums. Di halimbawa, meron silang isang message. May isang kapatiran, may message sa ganito. Kaya pala sila umiikot din sa ibang spiritual groups. Pag may binigay sa kanilang isang message, parang to the many of them, parang sa kanila, they were only being given a piece of a total message.
Mm-hmm.
So they will go to the other groups, either for confirmation, validation, or additional to somehow what they believe is only part of a total message. Hindi ba napakaganda naman?
Yeah, so since we were talking about the literal end of the world.
Yes.
And we've agreed that there is no literal end of the world.
There is no
possibly a coming transformation.
Yes, yun, that's the word.
Do you believe in an afterlife?
Siyempre pa, kasi ngayon parang nararamdaman ko na the communion of saints and heroes and saints. That's what I say. Ako, as a Catholic, meron kami tinatawag talaga naman sa faith namin na communion of saints. Nagtutulungan. The triumphant, yung nasa heaven na, yung nasa purgatory na in the process na entrance, kaya tumutulong ang militant dito, suffering church pa. Kasi naniniwala ako talaga na yung Holy Mass is already experiencing heaven. As far as I'm concerned. Saka yung Blessed Sacrament, kasi sa akin real sila. Kasi sa akin, whenever I go and visit the Blessed Sacrament, I attend the Mass, lalo na ang Blessed Sacrament. Ang sabi ko lagi you are, what a wonderful of God. Ang God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit. Tinatago mo yung divine glow mo and power. Kasi we human beings cannot contain you. Hindi namin kakayanin yan in all our mortal And we have only a glimpse. There is still a veil. But kaya pag namatay ka na, the entire veil.
Is
When you are a
lifted.
prepared soul, yun tinatawag na beatific vision.
So, last question. What about people like me who don't believe, who are atheists or skeptics? Ano naman ang pag-asa namin?
Hindi. Kaya nga ito, may mga pinagbigyan ng magdasal. Kasi nga, whenever the elevation of the host during the Holy Mass is done, ang dasal ko, ba't tinuro sa akin yun ang dasalin ko eh? Sabi kasi ni Jesus, Father, that they may all be one in us, so the world may know that you sent me. Dinadagdagan ko yun. You sent us. And when I say, sent us, the Filipino people, you sent the Filipino people to attest that this is our blessed destiny. We are a blessed country. Sa Mount Banahaw, bayang pinili, bayang pinagpala.
Oh, last question po. Bakit Banahaw?
Yes.
Bakit Banahaw ang naging parang center?
Oo nga, tama ka. Siyempre, meron silang mythical belief na it's the New Jerusalem, nandyan din yung footstep ni Rizal, na ganyan-ganyan. Or, shall we say, if not majority, of the people who are there, no, or the groups, mga pangalan nila kasi Sagrada Familia.
Yes.
Ibig sabihin ng Sacred Family. Santissima Trinidad, Holy Trinity. Ang tawag kasi sa kanila, Puestos. Take note ha, Puestos, parang post din, ano? And then when you go to the different Puestos, first presentation, pipresent mo yung sarili mo. Tapos, may paglilinis ka ng kalooban in some of the spaces there, ng sites, sacred sites. And then, pag tumawag sa taas, umaakyat ka na hanggang doon sa karurok-rurukan, Godfather, kung mataas pa, yun na yung covenant, paninindigan na. And somehow I deconstructed, I concluded in my research, syempre, I am free naman to interpret, di ba? That the Philippines is one holy land. Philippines nga, according to my research, dambana ng bayan, nilisip na so. Tingnan naman ang prophecy rin ng Mount Banahaw eh. Nations of the world will come, pay tribute. Kaya nga yung prophecy din sa Tres Personas Soli Diyos. The time will come, ang mga bato sa kabundukan ay gugulong sa kapatagan, at ang mga bato sa kapatagan ay aakyat patungo sa kabundukan. Nangyayari ngayon yun. When we begin to understand fully each other, and we come to terms. And only when all these basic institutions, kaya may decline, sabi mo decline. Something also sa Bible, sinabi din yun eh. How can you introduce a new form of government? Di ba sabi, kung ang wine mo fresh, and then sheepskin mo, luma na, it will burst.
Yes.
Kaya there is a form. Kaya siguro si Rizal, how prophetic si Rizal, di ba? Si Rizal, ang daming pinidik ni Rizal nangyari naman eh. We are now in the threshold of this fulfillment. When the call for every man and woman to be a saint and hero, for every Filipino to be a saint and hero, a hero and saint, it is only that time when we can fulfill our blessed destiny, embodied by Dr. Jose Rizal, the Redeemer of the Filipino race.
On that note, thanks very much for granting us this interview, and I hope you'll come back after your next presentation.